My Lords, it's a great pleasure to be able to congratulate my noble friend, Lord Farmer, and my right honourable friend in another place, although not in another place right now, Dame Angela Leadsom, on this proportionate and timely, but nonetheless hugely important measure. One of the things I've noticed throughout my adult life is a change in political vocabulary, a semantic shift, whereby the word investment has tended to lose its literal meaning of an outlay that produces some kind of return and has become a general euphemism for any kind of public spending. But this really is an example of investment in the most literal sense, where for a tiny sum relative to what government spends, we are investing in the most important resource we have, which is human development. There is a wealth of evidence, as my noble friend suggested, that the first years are the critical time. It's when the prefrontal cortex of a brain is forming. It's when all the neural pathways are being formed. And being able to reach parents, and particularly more vulnerable children in that time, is not only a monetary investment, it's of course an investment in human happiness. I'm not going to repeat, because the noble Lord Blanchett, and my noble friend Lord Farmer set it out very well, what this bill will do. But the value of having one place, either one place physically in a hub, or indeed the sort of virtual side effects of this, where you can learn about all of these things, about antenatal classes, about midwives, about breastfeeding, about what's available for children with disabilities or special needs. All of that is hugely important and valuable. And I say this with feeling. I remember when our first child was on the way 23 years ago, being very reluctant to go to antenatal classes. I thought there's going to be way too much information at those. They're going to be talking about disgusting things that I really don't want to hear about. And so I said to my wife, by way of compromise, look, I'll come to one. I'd only recently been elected to the European Parliament. I thought this is going to be my excuse. Can't be there on Monday night, sorry, but I'll come to the first one. And actually, I turned up to the first one. And there, sitting in front of me, looking unusually glamorous, was the brilliant actress Cate Blanchett. This was 2001, when she was at the height of her fame, the first of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, just having come out. So I told my wife that actually I'd better support her through the rest, and I'd better turn up in future weeks. And you know what? I am jolly glad I did, my lords, because 14 years later, when our youngest child was born in our remote farmhouse, the midwife didn't turn up on time. Talk about you had one job, right? And I found myself falling back on a great deal of the information that I had picked up at those antenatal classes in order to take charge of a quite stressful situation. So these things really do matter immensely. My lords, I do hope that there will be a measure of cross-party support for what I think is, just in terms of the ratio of investment to outcome, an extremely well put together proposal. Two principles have guided me all the way through politics. One is localism, and one is political frugality or economy. So decisions should always be taken as closely as possible to the people that they affect, and we should try and get away from the culture that we sometimes have in both houses here of people airily demanding things without any talk of who's paying for them. But this proposal, it seems to me, plainly passes both of those tests. It doesn't impose burdensome new duties on local councils. All it does is require them to tell people what they're already doing, and thereby, in some cases, enable people to shop around and go to neighbouring local authorities if a particular service isn't available locally. We've seen the huge success already, as Lord Blanchett discussed earlier, of some of these schemes. And as for the cost, my right honourable friend Dame Angela tells me that the cost is something like £750,000. My lords, that's what the government spends every 21 seconds. Indeed, in the time I have been on my feet, the government has spent something like £9.5 million. So I'd better sit down.